welcome to another episode of Larry's Rants, Raves, and Reviews! Now, it's the moment that you have all been waiting for. Here comes the man, the myth, the legend, my papa! Here's Larry!
Hey folks, what do you do on a snowy day? Well, my grandson just sent me a picture and he's out playing in the snow with his parents. And we're snowed in here in Little Rock. And so what does a pawpaw do? Well, I write a podcast and set up the equipment and ask my wife to be a little quieter. She's over there playing putting together some kind of a jigsaw puzzle. I got a big pot of chili on the stove, so we're having a good time. Hey, I really wanted to come to you because this thought occurred to me yesterday while I was working and running errands and different things. This podcast is entitled Decisions. Decisions. Your decisions will control the destiny of your life, and you need to know that. People often wonder, how did I get here in life? I mean, they come up in a place and they're like, how did I get here? Well, I can tell you that your direction is a culmination of your choices and your decisions. What you choose today will control the destiny of your life and where you will be tomorrow. Now, it's funny because I was sitting at my desk and a friend of mine, Rob, sent me a text, and it had this picture. I think it's off of Instagram or TikTok or something. But it's this snowy mountain, and it looks real beautiful. But the caption of it says, 9 months from now, you could be hunting or changing a diaper. Make good decisions this snowstorm. Well, how true that really is. You know, your decision will create that destiny for you. So I've got to say that when I face a difficulty, a problem in life, I always do a self-evaluation. Now, I've taught this to a Sunday school class. I've taught it to hundreds or thousands of people. I have taught this to my family, to my children. When you're coming up against a problem, do a self-evaluation, a self-inventory, and ask yourself, is this me? Did I cause this? You see, so many times in life, we're making decisions and we get to a destination and we're like, how did I get here? Well, wake up. Wake up. You're the one making the decisions. Many times it's the decision that you made yesterday or a week ago or a month ago that got you to the place you're in today. I had a lady come to me one time and she said, you know, would you pray for me? I need a job. I said, I thought you had a job. Well, I did, but I got fired. And I said, well, that's about 4 or 5 jobs that you've been fired from just seemingly recently. And she said, well, you know, my employers, my coworkers, and she just began to blame them. And I said, hold on, stop the phone. If you've gone through 3 or 4 jobs within the last 3 or 4 months, don't you think it's time for you to do what I call a self-evaluation and see if you're the one to really blame? You know, I was riding down the road with a man and he proceeded to tell me, in fact, it was a new salesman in another company that I used to own. And he was telling me about his life. I didn't know much about him. I interviewed him, seemed real good, seemed like a good salesman. But he proceeded to tell me about a divorce that he got and then another marriage and a divorce that he got. And honestly, I'm driving down the road and I'm like, finally I said, hey man, stop for a minute. I said, I've lost count of how many marriages you've had. And at that point, it was like 5 or 6 divorces that he had had. And he was blaming every one of them on the wives. And I looked at him, and it was kind of a bold statement, but I looked at him and I said, don't you think that you're the one that ought to take some inventory and see if maybe you're to blame? You're spending too much time on the bass boat. You're spending way too much time in the deer woods or the duck camp or something. You see, but here's the issue. We live in a society that refuses to teach people how to take responsibility for anything. I mean, no matter what someone does, the destination that they arrive at, it's never their fault. It's someone else's fault. I mean, Lord, I became a serial killer because I didn't get enough Girl Scout cookies when I was a little kid. That's the type of society that we are living in. Our society teaches us to pass the buck instead of taking responsibility. You start talking to people about taking responsibility, they will tune you out. Some people started this podcast, and when I started talking this way about responsibility, they're like, well, that's not for me. So they shut me off already. For those of you that have guts enough to finish, it's going to be a short podcast, maybe another, 5 or 10 more minutes, and then I'll be done. But those of you that have guts enough to listen to this, I might speak something into your life during this podcast that might change the destiny of your life. Let me just give you a couple of points to live by. Point number 1, your first decision is always your most important. Man, that thought occurred to me. I was driving down the road the other day, and all of a sudden, bam, that just hit my head. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so right. Your first decision is always your most important. Why? Because your decisions control your destiny. If you don't want to be a chain smoker, don't smoke your first cigarette. You say, Larry, I don't want to be an alcoholic. Don't take your first drink. You see, these are choices. These are decisions that you make. What about gambling? Well, don't roll your first dice. Don't play your first card. Stay away from the casino. You see, I've got to be honest with you. Life is far more simple than we give it credit for. We want to blame everybody and everything else on life when we arrive at a destination that we're not happy with. But folks, it's our decisions that put us in the places that we are in. Making your first decision only starts the process of making others. It's kind of like a liar. If you don't want to be known as a liar, don't tell your first lie. But see, liars always tell the first lie, then they have to tell another lie to cover up for the first one, and then a third lie to cover up for the second, and then so on. So the decision is very important, that when you make your first choice, your first decision, it will create others for you. If you want to live free and not a slave to debt, don't get a credit card. I don't own a credit card. You're looking at a man who has had personal debt with credit cards twice in his life. I was a fool twice in my life. And I'm going to tell you, once I got those taken care of, they went in the shredder. You ain't got enough money to get me to have another credit card. Just not going to do it. People say, well, you can't live on cash alone. Do you want to bet? I do. I've gone to New York. I've taken vacations. I don't have a credit card. And it works for me. I know how. You see, it's your first decision that is the most important. So remember that. Point number 2, and I told you I was going to be brief, but point number 2, make your decisions only after bathing them in prayer and time. You see, I'm a thinker. And if a problem comes up, I think about it until I get a clear picture of how to handle it or truly fix it. I own a restaurant. Things go wrong. Things break. And I've got to think about things. People will come to me with a problem. An employee, a staff member will come to me and say, hey, so-and-so, this is a problem. Okay. Well, I think about it. And once I think about it long enough, the thought comes to me, that's how to handle it. That's how to fix it. Personnel problems, I figure out how to fix them. Well, so here's what I would tell you. A pastor of mine, his name is Alton Garrison, he once taught me, Larry, on medium decisions, bathe those decisions for 3 to 4 days. Bathe them in prayer for 3 to 4 days. On major decisions, he taught me, bathe those major decisions in prayer for 7 days. And then he went one step further. He said, after bathing everything in prayer, follow peace, because God's wisdom will always be found in peace. I'm going to tell you, if you listen to this point in the podcast, that little nugget right there will change your life. If you'll follow that, I'm telling you, it will change your life. Medium problems, 3 to 4 days in prayer. 7, a major problem, bathe it in prayer for 7 days, and then follow peace, because God's wisdom will always be found in peace. Now, I've got to tell you, I'm a quick thinker. I'm a quick decision maker. But on major issues, I will take my time and wait on wisdom. I had a salesman one time in another company that I own. He came to me, he sat down, and I swear he was, and Cheryl, my oldest sister, who was my general manager of my companies, and and he was sitting there telling me something, and I was sitting at my desk and I was doing my best to listen and follow, but Cheryl knew me so well. She could tell by the look in my eye and the look on my face, and she looked at him and said, hey, Phil, stop. She said, Larry, and I'm like, yeah. She said, okay, Phil, he checked out about 5 minutes ago and you didn't know it, because he was boring me with such a horrendous amount of details. It was unbelievable. I checked out and didn't even know it. I apologized. She said, now give him the nutshell of what you're wanting to do. And he boiled it down to about 3 or 4 sentences. I said, well, yeah, go do it. It was painless. It was simple, because I'm a fast thinker. I think on my feet. I move on my feet. I communicate on my feet. But here's what I got to tell you. On major things, I'll bathe them in prayer and really give it some time. So folks, remember these 2 things that I've given you this podcast, and implement them in your life, and see if life can't become a little more enjoyable for you and a lot easier. Life is easier than we give it credit for if we handle it properly. Tell your friends, tell your family about our podcast. Be sure and send us comments and emails. Tell us if you've got a guest that you would like to have on. But be sure and follow us. And I hope you will have a great day.